Did I get shit this morning for
We're
sleeping
10 seconds
in?
early. I want to make sure you all have time to
Oh yeah,
light a
everybody's
cigar
texting
and
me
get
and
ready.
shit.
So, we think we have our audio figured out right here, guys. So,
Let us know if not.
yeah, let us know.
They'll let us know all through the changing.
Right. So, we just like to welcome you to burnt offerings. Today's burnt offerings are by full of bull and Clovis. Delicious. So I just want to say welcome. We got our Bible apps, and we're going to have it open so that we can answer questions. You guys can chime in when we get the verse going here. And then last thing, if you would share this with right now, you can just share the feed with your friends, and because really where it gains traction is in the coming weeks, guys will share this like crazy and comment and view it. We get most of our viewers about a week later. So welcome to Burnt Offerings. This is where we take a look at what Judge has done to the verse of the day, what God's talking to him about, and then we discuss it over a great cigar and lunch for about 30 minutes.
And a pipe.
I don't
we
know.
have to use words like
I'm not sure
indubitably.
about this.
Hey,
Why don't
right?
you just get a
I think
cigarette?
I think. Oh, that was.
We
pretty
don't
bad.
do that
That was
here.
That was pretty bad. Yeah.
Or a clove.
Yeah, a pipe. Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he looks so astute today.
I didn't have a small enough cigar in my humidor, and I didn't feel like wasting my lunch, and going back into having a longer lunch because I got to get that money, And I also don't feel like throwing away a cigar, so I said it's a pipe day.
There you go.
So don't get a lovely pipe dream. That's what I call my life, a pipe dream. That's the word of the day.
All right, Judge says this is the hardest verse we've ever had to unpack. No.
Well,
No?
it was probably more difficult for me because I think the proverb. Today we're talking about Proverbs 13:20. Proverbs 13:20, and I think it's very good, and it was I thought it was very profound, but sometimes the easy simple ones make them really difficult to try and put into a few words to do my little commentary. Anyway, so Proverbs 13:20 today is walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. It's like, wow, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Walk with the wise and become wise.
Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So I thought about it, and my thoughts today were, we must always surround ourselves with godly people. No good will flow from standing with the unrighteous.
That's true. So that's just mic drop. You just drop it and we're done.
Of course, the first thing that came to my mind, did your parents ever tell you? I mean, this just popped into my head immediately. If you sleep with dogs, you'll get fleas.
Yeah.
It was just that. Around with a bad.
So that whole guilt by association,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That your parents just instilled that in you. I think all of us. Don't hang around with people that you wouldn't be proud to introduce to somebody.
Something that's kind of applicable. One of my pastors said a long time ago, I don't know if he was the originator of this, but you only rise or fall to the level of expectation placed upon you.
That's so true.
So if you're hanging out with people way down here,
Absolutely.
that's about where everybody's going to be. But if you're up here with seekers of bettering yourself,
How many times have we said,
self-reliance.
whether it's a golf game or when I was playing racquetball a lot and different things, you play, even when I play bocce now, you play to the level of the people you're playing with. You never play as well when you're playing against people that don't play as well as you. So from this, I gleaned that, we should surround ourselves with not just good people, but godly people that believe the same way we do, and the people that have the same values that we do. And clearly, if you hang around people that don't have those same values, they're going to drag you down. They're just going to drag you down. That's all there is to it.
And I like that you said right away, godly people, because it says walk with the wise and become wise, but the world will give you an idea of what wise is, right?
Yeah.
So if I only want to be with a wise person by what the world says,
Isn't that true?
then we could be in big trouble, right?
How many people are very successful but not very godly? That's for sure.
Yeah,
Well, if you
yeah.
hang out with greedy people, if you hang out, whatever that their flavor of their bent is, you tend to start doing that.
Well, and I think so many of the Proverbs and the Psalms are much deeper than they are on their face. I think you really have to think about them, and that's probably why it was difficult for me to formulate my thoughts, because they seem very simple on their face. Walk with the wise and you'll be wise. Well, what does that mean exactly? When we talk about wise, I think you nailed it there. What is wise exactly? In our
Go to
hearts.
wisdom, and then the beginning of wisdom, or the fear of God, is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah.
Which again, the world's not going to tell you that at all.
No.
Because again, it's the world is against God's culture. I don't want to say God's culture, but that wisdom is hard to find. And we should cherish it. We should hold it like silver or gold, I think it says in other Proverbs. So, we should all be like Judge, you're saying, is like, how do we discern if someone is wise, or in this case, you're saying godly, right? So how can our spirits discern that when we're in front of somebody or not? Or should we even be doing that? Or how do we, I don't know, that's the question I'm thinking. Someone says, oh, I'm a Christian. Okay, so then how do we discern every day of what can we glean from that person, right? Because again, it should be the same thing. I'm gonna make a terrible analogy of ping pong. I love playing ping pong. I can't find anybody that will beat me. And so I've only been beaten once in a long, long time. And
I'm never playing you.
It's like I don't have any challenge, so I'm not getting any better. That's the point that I'm trying to get at, is that I play everybody, actually, I'll give my secret, I play everybody right-handed because I can play left-handed a lot better. So I just play everybody right-handed, so that way I can get my right hand to learn and better at it. And if they're really good, I'll have to switch and go to the left hand.
Didn't we have a rule about bragging during this?
I
thought we had a rule.
That's next week's scripture.
Yes, that's
I
right.
hadn't put a lot of thought into, because my mind, when I read this kind of verse, is Gossenberger always says, you are who you hang out with. And so it's like, be like people that are like-minded like you, so that you can stand firm in all that you are and don't sink.
Well, yeah.
Well, if you just play with all the same suckers who might be just as good as you or even just a little bit lesser, you're not getting any better.
Right.
So you need to be constantly making yourself just
Driving,
a small fish
challenging,
in a big bowl, instead of even just being the middle ground. Because we were always talking, be with like-minded, be equally yoked. It's like, no. You need to be the little sucker that needs to be growing at every single stage.
Right, so if I wanted to get better at ping pong, obviously I need to find people that, anyhow,
play with the Chinese Olympic team.
or just go to Thailand or whatever, like you said, and just find the people that are playing.
And that's one of the basic rules we've talked
To
about.
play a different sport.
One of the basic rules in any recovery program is to not surround yourself with those people you were with.
Right.
Those people are going to drag you back down.
What do you think can drag you down? Avoid that. Right?
Yeah. And we've talked about this at Holy Smoke too. Just so many of the guys, there's been social interactions away from Holy Smoke too, because they've made friends and they've clung to those people instead of the people that they hung out with before. And being around like-minded people, especially when it comes to your faith, is so important to keep you on the straight and narrow.
That's why it's good not to be isolated. Yourself know that there are other people going through the same stuff you are, or that kind of thing. For people that are recovering, if you're an alcoholic, you don't want to go to a bar. You don't want to hang out with other alcoholics or the party palace or whatever. You got to try to get with sober-minded people and that kind of thing.
And I think it's important to note that the proverb doesn't start out with "don't hang around with fools," because that's going to bring you trouble. It starts off with "walk with the wise." In other words, it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Walk with the wise. Walk with the godly people.
It didn't
Find
say call
those
them
people.
once a month. It doesn't say call them once a month. It says walk with them.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that, because when you walk, you don't just walk, you usually talk. There are defenses down. Like take a walk in the woods. Yeah, you can admire the beauty, but when you're walking, there's camaraderie and things. You let your guard down because I don't know, it's kind of like when you go camping or fishing. It's not about, it's nice to get out in the fresh air and everything, catch some fish, but usually it's that ironing, sharpening iron, ribbing each other, opening up to each other.
And you have to do that with actual time spent.
Right. That's what the walking means to
Not
me. Is
texting.
spending time.
Not it's not about. Well, I know a bunch of wise people. It's like you need to be
Spend
hanging
time
out.
with
You need
them.
to be rubbing elbows.
Spend
with
time
them.
with them. But sometimes these Proverbs and Psalms are so simple, but they really are deep when you go and unpack them, you know? And that's a good example. The positiveness of this starts off with be around those people. And as you said, walking has such an incredible, deep meaning when you really think about it.
Right.
So what about missing out? They talk about, hanging out with the right crowd. Did anybody get, even online, anybody have a, what do they call that? FOMO? The fear of missing out, Oh, I'll be good. I'll be all right. I can hang out with these guys because this is fun.
Well, and that's
And
the second part, isn't it?
Is it?
When for a companion of fools suffers harm.
Yeah, several times. I was only the getaway driver. I didn't rob the place.
That's right. There you
You're
go.
still
There you
going
go.
to jail.
That's right. You're still going to
Before we
jail.
started
still
filming,
going-
we were talking about the fathers and sons kind of thing, the passing on to the generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, verse 22.
That's almost like what this, to me, is also like one of those adages that you're sharing with your sons, and hopefully they're going to pass on to their sons. These wise idioms like that. So
Yeah.
Well, we were laughing about that before too. How our parents always harped upon hanging around with the right people, and I think that's part of parenting is teaching your children that you're going to be judged by the people you hang with. If you hang with godly people, then they're going to rub off on you, and people are going to say, "That's a good man."
Let's talk about Jesus hanging out with the people that he hung out with.
Well, that's interesting, isn't
right?
it? Yeah.
Because,
Well,
But he was perfect. Come on.
Very
so-
interesting because they just what my dad would say is guilt by association. That was his term, and
you're
they
having
were trying to make Jesus guilty by his association.
dinner with the tax collectors.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like, how could you dare do
the
that?
scum of the scum.
Yeah.
Right. And, forgiving prostitutes. I mean, it's... So,
Healing on the Sabbath.
it comes to one of the spirits is discerning of spirits, right? So, I feel like many times as Christians, we should be practicing is how do we discern that? And when I say, like when I throw a football, I'm going to throw an interception. I'm going to throw a football that's incomplete. But if I keep practicing, I can get the reps and I can getting completions. So I discern. Again, it's like practice. Did I get that or am I patient? And if someone, let's say if someone doesn't call me back, okay, that's a little, if someone, you see them drinking and he's drunk, again, you can time you can try to see was I incorrect or correct of judging that person. So I remember judging who owned a bar, and I thought he had to be a creep. If he owns a bar, how could he be a nice guy, right? I thought he drinks for a living. He's selling drinks, and so I was corrected on that. He was a very nice guy, and again from the little bit of information incorrectly. I think better. You know what I'm saying?
You instantly keeping that career.
No.
Notion or a prejudice that I had.
Yeah,
right?
no,
So,
I got you.
doesn't necessarily mean
That's who they are.
who they are. But again, my background, so to me it's like, which whether someone owns a strip club in Vegas, there's a judgment that's going to
about the people that Jesus walked with. I mean, that's interesting. That's really interesting. What are your thoughts on that? Because he certainly took the chance of being guilt by association.
Let me say that again. He came to save the sinner. sinning. What? Cult.
We were looking at it as he's going down and all had such a stroke of wisdom to then get influenced. The woman at the well wasn't also getting influenced by, whatever the other. They were all seeking out Jesus.
Kind of the extreme of
People were marveling at him like, isn't this Peter the fisherman? The roughneck doesn't know how to speak and he's normally into eloquence of speech, but God was doing all of that work within them, and so the people would marvel that are in the know, like the Sadducees, Pharisees.
So, I mean, it says be around the wise. Even I've heard people, I need to try to be around successful people, otherwise I end up being lazy and not really, building my business. None of them have any ambition or drive, and they would. Inherently, we know that you are who you hang out with. Do you guys do that? Do you guys intentionally try to make friends or put yourself in positions where you can be around wiser folks, or even on the work level? Do you try to be around successful people? I mean, you want to kind of test this.
Well, to me, again, if we look at what Jesus did, is obviously he was always giving glory back to his Father. Okay, so he had that closeness. He's praying with him, but if you think about it, he was always serving. He was always looking for, let's just say, the underdog. He knew in his spirit that person needed help. The woman at the well needed help. Who was the guy in the tree? Just the short guy. Zachariah. Zacchaeus. He knew. He called him out, and so I feel like there's a little bit of a danger if we're always, instead of looking for the lost, looking for the broken, which is what Jesus did. He found them. He knew how to find them. Right, the man with the mat. He knew that he needed to go there and to heal him. He knew he had a need of a Samaritan for the woman at the well. So as Christ followers, yes, we should be looking for people that are righteous and are wise, but I think on the other end of it is, if we're not being wise to somebody else, to someone that doesn't know Christ, how can we try to bring them up? So, I think I remember someone always telling me you should have a Paul and a Barnabas. I always forget that analogy of the other person, but some person that you're gleaning from, and another person who you are mentoring.
Paul and Apollos.
Paul and Apollos. Yeah. Excuse me.
I think it's in 2 Timothy. It talks about you need to be a teacher, but also be taught. There's always got to be someone above you and someone beneath you, almost like the centurion, the Cornelius. He understood that, yes, he has men, legions underneath him, but he also has those in authority over him. So it is good to learn, have a mentor, but it's also good to move. Also
Bigger than put down your thoughts and send them to other people in a teaching way. How's your faith been?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happened. It's 8:15 and I still haven't heard from you, Judge. You know.
What time do you usually get it out?
Well, I usually. I got involved with Holy Smoke. And he just came over me. He answered some of my prayers. I was going through a difficult time after my retirement, and he brought me to his word, and I can't answer why I started doing it, but what it's done for me has been nothing short of miraculous. Because every morning I look forward to doing that, and it's just the first part of my day. No matter who I'm with, I've been in groups of people. They know just to leave me alone while I'm doing that. I go off by myself and just get into the Word and think about it. And boy, you know, there's nothing better. There's just nothing better. We've talked about that before. So many of our members and friends that get into the Word every day, it changes you. It just changes you. There's no two ways about it.
Well,
and it's really been me, and I hope to do that the rest of my life. I've even had times when I've had surgeries, or I've been going to surgery. I get up earlier to make sure I'm going to get it done before I go in to anesthesia and stuff, you know. And then the next morning, the first thing I can think of is getting that done before I do any rehab or before they come in and give me more meds.
Judge, you mentioned that he answered some prayers. Would you be willing to share one?
I retired. A psychologist friend of mine shared with me, she said, you're going through 3 of the most traumatic experiences that a human can experience all at once. I retired from a lengthy career, over 20 years on the bench and 10 years as a lawyer and 15 years in law enforcement. I retired at 69 years old. My wife decided that our 20-plus year marriage was over, and I was turning 70 years old, you know, and so I don't know that there's anything that can explain that much going on at one time.
That's a lot.
And I was kind of a wreck, and I'll be very candid. I've never been a heavy drinker, but I was drinking too much. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't happy. And with the help of this dear friend who was a psychologist and the Lord, I just turned to him and I said, you know, your plan obviously is better than mine, and turned myself over. And I shared this with the men at Holy Smoke one time. You know, I had one of those aha moments. I just had an aha moment where the Lord came into my soul and said, you know, it's going to be okay. And I had an incredible sense of peace come over me. And from that day forward, I just turned to the Bible. And this friend of mine actually was much wiser than I was, because I hadn't turned to the Lord at that point. And she said to me, she said, do you believe in God? And, you know, who knows why I was trying, as men, we've talked about this, I was trying to solve these problems by myself.
Fix it.
Yeah, I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to be okay. And gosh, you know, in answering my prayers, not only did I get a sense of overwhelming peace, but I made a commitment and a covenant to God that I was not going to be getting involved with a person, a woman in my life that wasn't a woman of faith, and that wouldn't pray with me, and that wouldn't go to church. And Kat and I have talked about this. When she came into my everything just changed. And I can't stress enough what it means to have, and you gentlemen all know this, a woman of faith in your life. You can't walk that path when the other person isn't there, when they're too busy to go to church, when they're too busy to pray, when they just don't have the same set of values that you have. We pray every morning and every night, and it just makes you closer. That's all there is to it. So really, Kat answered my prayers. God answered my prayers through Kat.
That's awesome.
and gave me a sense of peace and happiness that I've felt ever since.
There's evidence. There's evidence in your life, right? For someone who doesn't know you, or maybe someone that did know you, let's say 10 years ago, right? There's evidence that you should see. And I'm assuming someone who knew you 10 years ago versus they may not recognize who you are, right? In a way.
Even my friends that I've known before and after my ordeals, I mean, Eric has said to me, he says,
He was a little grumpier before.
Yeah, I just saw an overwhelming change in you, you know? Yeah, and so many of my friends have said that. And I find it's interesting because I find so many more people that I ever expected now comment and read my daily devotional every day. And that certainly is, it just, I've said before, it means so much to me that people care enough to read it and care enough to see it. And as I mentioned this morning, people were giving me a hard time because I had slept in. That's beautiful. That's just beautiful. It's like they were checking on me to make sure I was okay.
There you go.
Beforehand, we were talking about walking with the Lord and walking alongside of it. When you walk with somebody, and we were, I think we'll preface that, we were talking about the iron sharpens iron verse, and how it's literally time spent with each other. Not that you know people, but I think what they're talking about in this verse is when you surround yourself with these people, I don't think it's your Facebook friends. I mean, I'm friends with the wise. I'm friends. It's people that we're actually gonna, do life together with.
If you have a problem at 3 in the morning, they're on their way.
We used to teach in high school kids. If we could grab a group of freshman boys and teach them some tools, it kind of went like this: like, look, if you want to protect yourself in your life and you're committed to walk what you believe, then you need to have 3 relationships, and it's what you said. You need a Paul, a Timothy, and then a Jonathan David relationship. So who and we would say, who are you currently mentoring? Grab a junior high guy, mentor him. He's always looking. I'll grab one of my buddies, someone else's dad. He can help mentor you. And it doesn't have to be that they're a generation above or below you. A lot of times that works well. But then don't forget about that accountability partner. What about that Jonathan David relationship? Jonathan's dad wanted to kill David, right? And he chose his friend over his father. And he chose himself being king, knowing that God had a plan for David to be king and not himself.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And that accountability is someone that is just like you, pretty much, that you can say, hey, I want these things in my life to happen. I believe in these things. Pay attention and make sure that I'm doing these things or not doing these things with me. So it's like you gotta, hopefully it's not a co-conspirator that you both go down together, but hopefully it's someone that iron sharpening iron, that they can actually make you the best person you can while mentoring and while being mentored. But I do believe you need that 3rd relationship too. Someone who, I just call him an accountability partner. I mean, Scott and I have been doing it for, I don't even know, 18 years, something like that. It's ridiculous. Long time. In fact, I went and met him this morning for coffee, and 15 minutes into the being late today. But I think that, and I think part of that surrounding yourself, like they're talking guys, intent, all directions, you're on the same page and you're working through it. It's a whole lot stronger deal than
Wrapping in the 4th dimension. Christ as your wife.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He kind of wraps
all in together.
Yes.
So I like it.
The more when we, as you get different perspectives, and it's perspective too. So this is actually very deep.
Yes, it is.
Now, I just want you all to know, between us 5, some of you are going to hang out with guys feeling. So, you know.
The wise guys.
So, you know, don't and move it and follow this too.
So Jim online says, thanks, that was really great.
Bothered to come, but we love it. We're thankful for you, Jim.
All right, well, Tuesday at noon, we'll read one of the verse of the day that Judge has already done in the morning by 8, 9.
Hey, I'm retired. Come on.
So make a plan to join us. Come. Sure.